Welcome to our deep dive, and this time we're going to get into something I'm really excited about, Argentinian wines.
Oh, yeah.
I've been looking through all this great material, and wow, Argentina's wine scene is really something special, wouldn't you
Oh,
say?
absolutely.
It's got incredible history and so much diversity,
Uh-huh.
and it's all kind of set against this backdrop of some really dramatic geography.
Right.
The Andes Mountains, they're practically winemakers themselves,
Mm-hmm.
creating these unique microclimates, these little pockets where the conditions are just perfect.
Yeah. It's really all about that. The Andes create this rain shadow effect,
Okay.
blocking all that moisture that would normally come in off the Pacific, so
Right.
ends up being dry. It's perfect for growing those grapes.
Ah, so the mountains are like what, a natural barrier?
That's right. And then you factor in the altitude variations, you get all these different soil types, different temperature ranges. It's pretty amazing.
So is that what they mean when they talk about terroir?
That's exactly it.
Like I hear that word all the time, but what's it really mean for me, when I'm sipping a glass of wine?
Well, think of terroir like a recipe,
Yeah.
You've got a unique blend of ingredients all coming together.
Okay.
So you got your soil, you got your climate, the sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
and they all play a role. Like you might have one area, let's say, with alluvial soil.
Yeah.
Now that's basically sediment that rivers have deposited over time.
Okay.
And the wines from there, they'll have this distinct minerality to them.
Mm.
But then just a few miles away, you might find vineyards planted in clay-heavy soil. Now, those wines, they're going to be fuller bodied, they'll have a richer texture. It's fascinating how the earth itself can have such a direct impact on the taste.
Wow. So you're saying the soil is like a fingerprint
In
almost.
a way, yeah. And Argentina's landscape is so diverse, you get so many different expressions of that terroir, from those high-altitude vineyards in the Andes to the sun-drenched plains.
Hmm.
It's a wine lover's paradise.
It really does sound incredible. And it makes sense, right, when you consider that Argentina has like a super long history of winemaking.
Oh, absolutely.
I was reading about, I think it was Jesuit missionaries planting vines way back in the 16th century.
Yep, that's right. And you can't talk about Argentinian wine without mentioning the European influence.
Hmm.
You had all those immigrants, especially from Italy and France, coming over in the 19th century, and they brought their knowledge, their expertise, and of course, different grape varietals. It's like this amazing tapestry woven from all these different traditions.
Yeah, it's amazing how all those historical threads kind of come together to create, what we think of as Argentinian wine today. And speaking of today, it seems like Argentina is really kind of having a moment on the world wine stage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Argentinian wines they're definitely getting that international recognition they deserve. For their quality, for the value.
Uh,
And it's not just Malbec anymore either. Yeah. People are starting to discover all those other fantastic varietals and styles that Argentina has to offer.
well, let's not keep them waiting any longer. Let's take a virtual tour, so to speak, of Argentina's wine regions. And I think we got to start with the heart of it all, right?
Right.
Mendoza.
Hmm.
I mean, it's practically synonymous with Malbec, wouldn't you say?
You could definitely say that.
Yeah.
But even within Mendoza, you have these distinct subregions,
Okay.
each with its own microclimate, its own personality.
Oh.
So you got Lujan de Cuyo. It's known for those what we call really concentrated Malbecs, with the structure, the elegant style.
So when you say like finesse-driven wines, you're talking about what, like those subtle characteristics, elegance?
That's it. It's not just about power and intensity, but the harmony, the complexity of those flavors.
Right.
Then you've got the Uco Valley with its high altitude vineyards. Those wines are often described as like mineral driven.
So it's almost like you're tasting the mountains in the wine.
You could say that. It really does reflect the unique characteristics of that soil. And then there's Maipú, which is a region steeped in history that produce more of a traditional style of wine, focused on those classic Argentinian flavors that people have come to love.
It's fascinating how each region has its own story to tell just through the wines. But Argentina's wine landscape goes way beyond Mendoza, right? We got to talk about those like crisp, aromatic Torrontés wines from the north.
Well, absolutely. You can't forget about Salta in the northwest. That's where Torrontés really shines, especially in the high-altitude vineyards of the Calchaquis valleys. And Cafayate, that's the heart of that region. Any white wine lover should put that on their bucket list.
So it's like if you want a unique white wine experience, Cafayate is the place to be.
For sure. And then you have San Juan to the east, which is really making a name for itself with Bonarda and Syrah. They're both red grapes, and they really thrive in that warm, sunny climate.
I've been hearing a lot about Bernarda lately. It seems like it's becoming like a real star in Argentina. What should I expect when I try it?
Well, Bonarda is all about juicy fruit, vibrant acidity, and a little touch of spice.
Okay.
It's often compared to a lighter-bodied Malbec with notes of like plum, cherry, that sort of thing. And because it's got that naturally high acidity, it's a fantastic food wine.
I'm adding that to my
It's
list.
a good one.
And speaking of lists, I can't believe how much we've covered already, and we've barely scratched the surface. There are so many other regions we haven't even mentioned.
I know, right? It's amazing how much diversity there is.
La Rioja, with its high-altitude vineyards, Patagonia, where they grow those cool climate Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. You even have emerging regions like Buenos Aires and Neuquén that are starting to get some recognition.
It's really a testament to Argentina's diverse terroir and the innovative spirit of the winemakers there.
And we haven't even talked about all the different grapes yet. Malbec might be the king, but there's a whole court of other varietals just waiting to be explored. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Semillon, and even those indigenous grapes like Pays.
Oh, absolutely. It's a treasure trove of flavors.
Well, I don't know about you, but after all this talk of wine, I'm definitely getting thirsty. So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll dive into the specific characteristics of Argentina's most prominent grapes, and we'll explore what makes each of them so unique.
We'll unpack those flavor profiles, talk about food pairings, and maybe even uncover a few hidden gems along the way. So stay tuned.
Can't wait. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground talking about the different regions and all that, but now I'm ready to actually, pop some corks and dive into the tasting notes, the nitty-gritty of what makes these Argentinian wines so special.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So I think we got to start with the icon, right? The
What do
legend.
you mean?
Malbec. It's the grape that put Argentina on the map. I mean, it's a personal favorite of mine. What is it about Argentinian Malbec that makes it so unique?
Well, Argentinian Malbec is known for its really intense fruitiness.
Yeah.
Get those classic flavors of like black plum, blackberry,
Mhm.
sometimes even a hint of violet. And what's really interesting is it often has this velvety texture
Okay.
with smooth tannins, which makes it really approachable and food friendly.
Okay, you said tannins. Now, I know that's important when we're talking about wine, but could you just remind me what that means, like, in terms of taste?
Sure. So tannins, they're that slightly drying sensation you get on your tongue when you sip red wine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of like that puckering you get from something sour.
Right,
And
right.
tannins come from the grape skins and seeds, and they add structure to the wine. They help it age. In Malbec, the tannins are often described as soft or rounded, which is why it feels so smooth and pleasant to drink.
So it's not like that, like, harsh, bitter taste you sometimes get with, some other red wines.
Exactly. And that's one reason Malbec's so popular. It's got those bold, fruit-forward flavors,
Mm-hmm.
but it's balanced by that smooth, velvety texture. And speaking of food-friendly,
Yes.
we can't talk about Malbec without mentioning its perfect pairing. Grilled meats.
Bring on the asado. But why is that pairing so classic?
Well, there's a real synergy,
Yeah.
between the rich, smoky flavors of the meat and the bold fruitiness of the Malbec.
Uh-huh.
And those tannins we were talking about, they actually help to cut through the fat of the meat. So you get this really balanced, satisfying experience.
Well, that makes sense.
And the dark fruit notes in Malbec, they just complement the char and the smokiness of the grill beautifully. It's a match made in heaven.
Next time I break out the grill, there's going to be a bottle of Argentinian Malbec right there with it. Okay, but Malbec isn't the only star in Argentina. We got to talk about Bernarda, which you mentioned is gaining a lot of recognition lately.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the deal with Bernarda?
Well, Bernard is all about that bright fruit, that vibrant acidity, a little touch of spice.
Okay.
It's often described as having flavors of black cherry, plum, maybe a hint of licorice. And it's so versatile. Like, that vibrant acidity makes it incredibly food-friendly, so it pairs well with a lot of different things.
So you're saying, like, if Malbec is the go-to for grilled meats, Bernarda's more of a wild card.
You could say that. It can handle hearty pasta dishes, roasted vegetables, even spicy cuisine. Think of Bernarda as your weeknight hero.
Okay.
Delicious, approachable, always up for an adventure.
I like that. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. All right, we talked about reds, but what about the whites? Can't forget about Torrontés, Argentina's signature white grape.
Oh, for sure. Torrontés is truly unique.
Yeah, you mentioned that it loves those high-altitude vineyards in Salta.
Right. And it's an aromatic white grape known for these really intense floral aromas, like jasmine and orange blossom, But then you also get those bright citrus notes and maybe a little touch of honey.
So if someone enjoys like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Gewürztraminer, they might really like Torrontés.
Oh, absolutely. It has that similar kind of aromatic intensity, but with its own distinct personality. And it's just so refreshing. It has this crisp acidity that makes it perfect for warm weather or for pairing with lighter dishes.
Okay, my mental tasting notes are getting pretty full here. We've covered Malbec, Bonarda, and Torrontés, but there's so much more to discover in Argentinian wine. What are some other grapes people should be on the lookout for?
Well, Argentina makes some excellent Cabernet Sauvignon. It tends to be a bit more fruit forward, a little less herbaceous than Cabernet Sauvignon from other regions, so you'll often get those really ripe black currant and cassis flavors.
When people say a wine is herbaceous, what kind of flavors are we talking about?
It's that savory, almost vegetal quality you sometimes find, like think bell pepper, eucalyptus, maybe even mint.
Okay, got it.
But in Argentinian Cabernet Sauvignon, those herbaceous notes tend to be more subtle, letting those fruit flavors take center stage.
Sounds good to me.
And we can't forget about Merlot. Argentinian Merlot is often really smooth and elegant, with notes of plum, black cherry, maybe a hint of chocolate. And then there's Syrah, which tends to be spicy and peppery, with those rich, dark fruit flavors. Really thrives in that warm Argentine climate.
And Chardonnay, right, it's grown all over the place, but what makes Argentinian Chardonnay stand out?
Well, Argentinian Chardonnay is really diverse. You'll find everything from crisp, unoaked styles to the richer, buttery Chardonnays that have been aged in oak. The cool climate of Patagonia is actually really well suited for Chardonnay. You get these wines with a bright acidity and really elegant structure.
It's amazing how much diversity there is within each grape varietal. It really seems like Argentinian winemakers are all about experimentation and innovation.
Oh yeah, they're definitely pushing boundaries. And we should mention the renewed interest in some of the indigenous grapes, like Criolla Chica and País.
Yeah.
These are ancient varietals that have been growing in Argentina for centuries. And now they're making a comeback as winemakers look to rediscover their heritage and create wines that are really unique to the region.
It really sounds like there's a whole world of flavor waiting to be explored in Argentinian wine. And I'm curious, with all this diversity and innovation, what are some of the trends you're seeing in Argentinian winemaking these days?
Well, one of the most exciting things is the focus on sustainability. Argentinian winemakers are increasingly committed to those environmentally friendly practices, like organic and biodynamic viticulture, water conservation, energy efficiency. It's great to see.
So it's not just about the quality of the wine in the glass, but the impact on the environment too.
Exactly. There's a real sense of stewardship. They understand that taking care of the land is not only good for the planet, but it also results in higher quality grapes and ultimately better wines.
It makes sense. People are more aware these days about where their food and drink comes from, the impact of those choices. I bet that eco-conscious approach is something that resonates with a lot of wine drinkers.
Oh, absolutely. And, on the economic side, Argentinian wines offer incredible value for their quality. That's a huge advantage in the global market.
Yeah, people are looking for affordable luxury, and a bottle of Argentinian Malbec can really compete with some of the best in the world, often at a much better price.
Exactly. And they're diversifying their portfolio. It's not just Malbec anymore. They're showcasing those exciting new varietals we talked about, Bonarda, Torrontés, even those rediscovered indigenous grapes. It's given them a real edge.
They're not putting all their grapes in one basket, so to speak.
That's right. They're showing off just how good their winemaking is, and it's attracting attention from all over sommeliers, wine critics, consumers. Everyone's taking notice.
And what about enoturism? We touched on it briefly before, but it seems like Argentina has so much to offer visitors. I mean, you've got those incredible Andean landscapes, the warmth of the people.
Enotourism is really booming in Argentina. People are going there not just to taste the wines, but to experience the culture, learn about the history, and really immerse themselves in the beauty of the wine regions.
It's like a wine-themed adventure. I'm picturing like horseback riding through the vineyards, hiking in the Andes, and ending the day with a delicious asado paired with, some incredible wine, obviously.
You got it. And the growth of tourism is having a great impact on the local communities. It's creating jobs, supporting small businesses,
Yeah.
and helping to preserve their cultural heritage.
So it's not just good for the wine industry, but good for the people and the places too.
Exactly. And it's really changing people's perceptions of Argentina as a wine destination. People are realizing it's not just about Malbec. It's a country with such rich history, vibrant culture, and a wine scene that's full of surprises.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here.
We have.
Hmm.
But hopefully this deep dive has inspired you to go and explore some more.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to plan a trip, or at the very least, open a bottle of something special tonight.
There you go.
Okay, so we've talked about the regions, the grapes, even how Argentinian winemakers are, really embracing sustainability. I feel like we've gotten a pretty good sense of the culture, the heart of Argentinian wine.
We have, yeah. But there's another side to explore.
Okay.
The business of wine.
All right.
Argentina's wine industry is at this really interesting point. It's facing challenges, sure, but there are also some incredible opportunities.
Well, you can't talk about agriculture these days without mentioning climate change, right?
Right.
How are Argentinian winemakers dealing with those shifting weather patterns, the unpredictable growing seasons?
It's all about adaptation
Mm-hmm.
and being resourceful.
Okay.
Some winemakers are experimenting with those high altitude vineyards because it's cooler up there.
Right.
So it kind of buffers against that rising heat. Others are using really smart irrigation techniques like drip irrigation to conserve water during those drier periods.
So it's like a mix of traditional knowledge and modern technology.
Exactly. There's a lot of research, a lot of collaboration going on. Winemakers are sharing their knowledge, their best practices to make sure the vineyards are sustainable for the long term. And it goes beyond just reacting to climate change too.
Okay.
There's a big push towards organic and biodynamic viticulture, which means minimizing the use of chemicals and promoting biodiversity.
We're seeing that all over the food and beverage industry, but it seems like it's a really natural fit for a country like Argentina, with all that wide open space, that strong agricultural tradition.
You're absolutely right. Argentina really has the potential to be a leader in sustainable wine production. And a lot of the producers, they're already embracing that. They understand that taking care of the land, it's not just good for the environment, it also leads to better grapes, better wine.
It's a win-win, right? Consumers are more aware these days. They want to know where their food and drink comes from and the impact those choices have. And I bet a lot of wine drinkers out there are looking for that eco-conscious approach.
For sure. And on the economic side of things, you know, Argentinian wines offer amazing value.
Yeah.
I mean, for the quality you get, the price is often really competitive,
Yeah.
which is a huge advantage in the global market.
Especially when people are looking for, affordable luxury. A bottle of Argentinian Malbec. It can hold its own against some of the best in the world, often at a much better price.
Absolutely. And they're not just relying on Malbec anymore. They're showcasing those other exciting varietals we talked about, like Bonarda, Torrontés,
Right.
even those rediscovered indigenous grapes, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's giving them a real competitive edge.
They're not putting all their grapes in one basket.
Exactly. They're really showing the world what they can do, and it's attracting a lot of attention.
Now, we talked about ecotourism a bit earlier. It seems like Argentina has so much to offer visitors. You've got those stunning Andean landscapes, the warmth of the people. What's it like to actually visit these wine regions?
Well, enotourism is booming in Argentina. And it's not just about tasting the wine.
Okay.
People want the whole experience, the culture, the history, the beauty of the wine regions.
It's like a wine-themed adventure vacation.
Exactly.
I'm picturing horseback riding through the vineyards, hiking in the Andes, ending the day with a delicious asado, and of course, some incredible wine.
You got it. And all of that tourism, it's having a really positive impact on the local communities, too. It creates jobs, it supports local businesses, and it helps preserve the culture.
So it's more than just about the wine itself.
Yeah, it's about lifting up entire regions, really. And it's helping to change how people see Argentina as a wine destination. They're starting to realize it's not just about Malbec. It's a country with rich history, vibrant culture, and a wine scene that's just full of surprises.
Well, I know I've learned a lot, and I'm definitely inspired to try even more Argentinian wines, maybe even plan a trip someday.
That's great to hear. Whether you're a seasoned wine enthusiast or just starting to explore, there's really something special about Argentinian wine. It reflects the land, the people, the passion.
It's a story worth discovering, that's for sure. And what better way to do that than, one sip at a time? Well, cheers to that. And until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of wine.